Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha Vasudeva Sutang Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnang Vande Jagatgurum. So we will continue with this study of the Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. So we are already in the 5th chapter. So the chapter deals with the idea that the Karma-Yogi is always detached and hence free even while he is performing his actions. So it is not the action which binds us, it is our attachment towards the action that binds us. So if we can continue with the actions, as in the words of Swami Vivekananda, seeking not, avoiding not. Neither we avoid and resort to our comfort zone. Whatever is our responsibilities, we resort to that. We go on continuing with that. We don't avoid them. And at the same time, we are not seeking the results of those actions. The idea which we again and again has been described in the Bhagavad Gita, that will be continued from the 7th to the 13th verse of this 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The idea is the one who is a Nitya Sannyasi. Who is a Nitya Sannyasi? That generally we make our spirituality a part-time affair. That I think that worshipping the divine in a particular way, I offer incense, I offer flowers, I sit down for meditation. That's my spirituality. And apart from that, whatever I do pertains to my secular world. We as if create a watertight compartment between our spiritual life and our secular life. But in the words of Swami Vivekananda, there is nothing called secular. Everything is spiritual. If God has become the entire universe, our dealings is always with the divine. Whether we know it or not, we are dealing with the divine. In the words of Swami Vivekananda, I worship that God whom the ignorant calls man. It is the ignorant. Because of our ignorance, we see the person as A, B, C, D, as individuals. But it is the same divine who is percolating the entire universe, who is the essence of each and every being. If I know that, if I am aware of that, and I'm dealing with the world, with all beings, with that awareness in my mind, everything becomes dealing with the divine, and it becomes something which is as equivalent as worship. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that just see the paradox. We can see the divine in a stone image, and we cannot see the divine in the living beings. In the stone image, we have to do prana pratishtha, that we have to think that it has been enlivened by the life, by the inmost, the God who is residing in the inner core of my being. It is being transmuted in that image. That's how the prana pratishtha is done. And now it has become something living. I cannot worship who is in the innermost core of my heart. It is my limitation. So I bring him out and as if establish it in the divine, invoke the divine in it, and I see the divine in it, and I start worshipping it. And a living being for whom prana pratishtha is not required, he is a living being, conscious being, moving around. The paradox is I cannot see the divine there. So Sri Ramakrishna is saying that Pratimaye tar pujo hoy, jiyanta manushe tar pujo hoy na. That can he not be worshipped in the living being. So in all our dealings, can become spiritual if it's just we change the awareness. So that's changing of the awareness speaks of spirituality, not the mode of our actions, what I am doing. That doesn't enter. The same worshipful attitude which I have in the shrine, if I can continue with it, even in our day-to-day activity, the way when I'm dealing with other persons, the same worshipful attitude can be maintained. And if we succeed in doing that, then that becomes our spiritual worship. It no more remains anything secular. So now let's continue after this short discussion, short introduction. Now let us continue with the verses of the Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. The 7th verse, what it is saying? Yoga yukta vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriya sarva bhutatma kurvannapi na lipyate. Yoga yukta, the one who is always in union with the divine. Yoga means to be in union, to be in communion. What actually it means to be in communion with the divine? That if we really try to have a look within ourselves, that we have so many good feelings. If I see someone is in need of help, empathy wells out from me. The mother feels love for the child. The love wells from the mother's heart, from the father's heart. The mistake we do, the mother thinks, the father thinks, we think when we feel that empathetic attitude towards other. We feel it is you are a very nice person who have lot of love, compassion in my heart, and it is me who is loving the other person. We forget that our genes are altruistic. We have been built in such a way that the love is something which is within us. It is actually just the opposite. It is not that we develop love. Love is already within us. It is because of our ego. The more when we grow, when we start growing, the more our individuality becomes stratified, becomes something concentrated, becomes something saturated. The more I think I am this person, this individuality, that speaks of the ego, the more we will find that our natural empathy is something which is dwindling. Sri Ramakrishna used to give a nice example, that the entire existence is like an ocean, undivided ocean of consciousness. And in the ocean, if you immerse a pot, some of the ocean water will enter into the pot because of the boundary of the pot, because of the wall of the pot. The water outside in the ocean gets as if demarcated with the water which is inside the pot, though it is the same water. And the waves outside no more disturbs the water within. So Sri Ramakrishna is saying that our ego is like that pot. Our sense of individuality is that like little water which has entered, the same consciousness which has entered into my being, which makes me feel my individuality. And it has become so stratified. The external happenings in no way creates turmoil within me. As a sense of duty, I may show sympathy, but I don't feel that love sometimes. And it happens when our ego gets stratified. It can be easily visible in a child. A small child, you don't have to teach them. They just behave that way. You will find that when they are playing together, a group of children playing together, one falls, starts crying, gets injured and starts crying. There's a tendency that all the children will feel morose. They suddenly gets very quiet and they even start crying. Why? This natural empathy is within our heart. We relate to the world through that empathy as long as our ego is not stratified. For a child, its consciousness is diffused. You will find it is going and standing near a wall and talking. For him, everything is living. Sometimes we say, what the child is doing? Just talking to a wall. That's how the child, it's diffused consciousness. It doesn't have a boundary of me and the outside world. To a certain extent, everything is diffused. And that's how it relates more and more to the other beings. So there's a non-local consciousness of which we all form a part. It is the ego which barricades us. The more we relate with love and empathy, that barrier starts falling off. So it is our ego which goes on as if distinguishing us from the external world. But that empathy is something which is already within us. We have been built in that way. So that's the thing which we are saying, that if behind the creation, there is a creator. A few days back, I visited a house, and the parents told the small girl has some question. There's a small girl. Oh yeah, what's the question? Very interesting question. Who made God? Because whatever we see has been made, has been created. Who made God? So justice was genuine, because when children ask, they ask from their heart. It's not something they have heard from someone else. That who made God? So the question itself was very interesting. So we have to be told that God is the one who is always there. He has made everything. No one has made him. He is there as the eternal being. So behind this creation, we have an idea that there is a creator. If he has created everything, then the love in my heart, which is inborn, the sympathy, all the good feelings that are within my heart, which when I'm born, it is there. Previously, we saw that when the genetic science was developing, the idea was that genes are selfish. There's this famous book, The Selfish Genes. But the ideas go in science itself, it goes on changing. And now in science itself, they have started saying that the genes are altruistic. In the entire theory of evolution, the competition, the idea of that survival of the fittest because of competition, that has changed, transformed. Many words have come into existence like synergy, synergistic. If you go to the coral reef, you will see that for millions of years, the most vulnerable creatures are existing. They are not supposed to exist because they formed that coral and living in that harsh environment because of synergy. They all cooperate. My limitation is overcome by your strong points. And your limitation is overcome by my strong points. So it's a win-win situation. We both win when we come together. 1 + 1 is 2 in mathematics. But in the biological world, in the living world, 1 + 1 is never 2. It is 4, 5 more. When we come together, we all outgrow our limitations and we can perform in a better, much better way, which is far, far greater than the mathematical summation. It's not just the mathematical summation. Everywhere we will find, when we come together, we can do something wonder, we can create. And this all is implanted in our heart. We have studied in the 2nd chapter in the Bhagavad Gita. What Bhagavan is saying? Saha yagya praja srishtva. When I created this world, I created along with yagya. And now if you limit the word of yagya as a fire sacrifice, it means nothing. Did God create the world with the fire sacrifice? What it means? It's nonsense. Yagya means interdependence. If in the fire sacrifice, what's the idea? That I offer something to the divine in the form of fire. That oblation is carried to the divine. In return, he gives me something. He gives me rain, he gives me long life, whatever it may be. So it's a question of giving and receiving. So this giving and receiving, that's the idea. From that specific fire sacrifice, you take the idea of giving and receiving, the idea of interdependence, and then you see the entire universe is actually built on that. So that's the idea of yagya. It's the idea, this yagya is synergy. So when God created this universe, he created with that idea of synergy. It is there within my heart. If that's the truth, then where's the question of me being the doer? I love, I show sympathy. It's not that. It is the God, it is his creation. I am just a mere instrument in his hand. A puppet show is going on, the strings are in the hand of someone else. It is working through me. If that's the truth, where is the question of thinking of getting the returns from that work? The one who is the owner, it is his. So I offer I do to my best of my ability, whatever skills the Lord has given me, I use them and perform to the best of my ability, and there it rests. The results are his. So Yoga Yukta, when you are Yoga Yukta, and that means you're always in union with the divine. Always you're having that awareness that it is the Lord who is working through me. And then you naturally become Vishuddhatma. The core of sin, that opposite of Vishuddha, purity is sin. And what is the core of sin? The core of sin is I. S-I-N. Literally the core of sin is I. Between S and N, the alphabet I is there. Literally it is true, and spiritually also it is true. The more the I is stratified, the more you are sinful. All the sin comes from this I. I want this, I want that. And this want, when it becomes overwhelming, it doesn't follow the do's and don'ts of the society, and that becomes crime. All the crimes, all the sin is because of that I. The more we can dissolve that I in that non-local consciousness and start relating with all as if my interaction with the divine, the more I become pure. So the more you are Yoga Yukta, the more you are Vishuddha. So the one who is Vishuddhatma, this pure in mind, one who is Yoga Yukta. So then what happens? Naturally his body now becomes under control, that Vijita Atma. The word Atma in Bhagavad Gita, in our scripture, has been used in various senses. Sometimes the Atma means the body, sometimes the Atma means the mind, and sometimes Atma, of course, means the essence of your being, the soul, the conscious principle. So Vijita Atma, here the Atma has been used in the word of the body, who has controlled his own body. How? By becoming Jitendriya. Jita Indriya. He has developed the control over his senses. The more you think of others, the more you develop control over your senses. Just see, when we are just like a student, he has some few pennies in his or her pocket. The father has given the pocket money, the mother has given the pocket money, while returning from school, passing by the McDonald's, just feels like having something, goes, buys and grabs. Never thinks of anything. You'll find the children are yet to develop sometimes that attitude of sharing. And now when he grows, he has become a family man. He is now the father. He also feels like going and having something. But what will happen? The moment he goes to buy something, the thought of his family will come first. His children will come first. So that desire to have something is there. But now what happens? He will buy, he will go to his home, he delays his gratification, he will share it with all, give it to all, and along with them he also will have it. So this share and care comes the more when you think of others. That love develops the more you think of others. And that helps you to delay your gratification. And that speaks of Jitendriya. You become more and more self-controlled. The more you become pure, you become Vijitatma, you become Jitendriya. Sarva Bhutatma. And now that the reason in the second line is given, Sarva Bhutatma, Bhutatma. You see yourself in everyone, you see the self within you, the self within all, and naturally you see yourself in everything. So when I or the ego dissolves, one becomes one with the entire existence. So just now we give that example of the breaking of the pot. The pot, the ego, which is the pot, if it breaks, then what happens? The water within now again becomes one with the water outside. Even in the animal world, sometimes we think they are not spiritual. Unknowingly, they are also spiritual. Have you seen the birds flying in the sky with a formation. So, no one is there to lead them. Very interesting. When they turn, they all turn together. They will take a turn together. There's a very nice, in the last, in 1900s, in 1990s, some research was going on, very interesting, that how they do that. If we can know the phenomenon by which this is happening, the procedure by which it is happening, we can do a lot of innovative discoveries, inventions, by which we can improve our traffic system. In the traffic, if we have that intelligence to know that the next vehicle, whether suddenly it is going to take left or right beforehand, so now that there are sensors and all the things they are thinking of, then I can avert accidents. So they thought, if we know the technique by which they are doing, it will help us to develop our advanced technology. But at last what they told is something very interesting, that somehow the birds, there is no one who is the commander there, saying left turn or right turn. All are turning in unison. Even within the ocean, you will find that there's a bunch, there's small fishes, all are swimming together. Even in the aquarium you will find. Suddenly they turn once at a time. But who is the commander? Who is commanding that? How come they all turn together? And what, even in our research there has been mentioned that somehow they are relating to some form of non-local consciousness which makes them to work in unison. So you will find this wonderful thing that sometimes we find the echo of the spirituality even in the scientific research, that they are somehow relating to some non-local consciousness, non-local awareness, which enables them to work in unison. Unknowingly they are also spiritual. So that's the thing which is the more our ego falls off, ego barrier falls off, the more we all relate to that non-dual consciousness. We all relate somehow to it, and more we work in unison. So that's the thing. Is an example as Mr. Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma. In the words, this Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma reminds me of Holy Mother's words. Holy Mother in a simple way used to say a very interesting thing, that when will you know that you have acquired that final wisdom, the spiritual wisdom. In Bengali she is saying very interesting, যখন দেখবে তোমার মাঝে যিনি আমার মাঝেও তিনি আর ওই দুলে বাগদির মধ্যেও তিনি, দুলে বাগদি means the lowest of the lowly, তখন জানবে জ্ঞান হয়েছে. When you see the one who resides in me, the same one resides in you, not only that, he resides in everyone, and even the lowest of the lowly, know that you are established in that wisdom. And that's what is meant by the word Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma. So that's the thing. So when you do that, then the empathy something becomes unbound. When Swami Vivekananda was traveling before going to the West, he was traveling alone. He told the other brother disciples that sometimes staying together doesn't allow us to really dive deep within. It itself becomes a distraction. So why not just we move around all alone? Let us not try to meet each other. And that's the time when they were all scattered, they were all moving alone as parivrājakas. But accidentally it happened that Swami Vivekananda met Hari Maharaj, Swami Turiyananda, another direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. So they were all scattered, they were all moving hither and thither, going to various holy places, and accidentally they met each other. After a long time, after quite a couple of months, they suddenly met. So they were happy. Suddenly they met, and now they wanted to know that how far they are progressing in spiritual life. So Hari Maharaj, Swami Turiyananda asked Swamiji, that do you think that we are all now as Parivrajaka moving around, have you progressed spiritually in these few months? Swami Vivekananda's reply was wonderful. He told Hari Bhai, he used to call him as Hari Bhai Turiyananda, I understand nothing of your so-called conventional spirituality. I don't understand nothing. But one thing I realize, that my heart has enlarged. It really fills. It is this feeling which actually impelled him to go to the West. It is this feeling, tremendous feeling for his countrymen, for whomever he was seeing in abject poverty, dejection. So he wanted that his initial motivation for going to the West was that I go there and bring material prosperity to my country. That's the thing they need. And our spirituality, we give it to the West. That's the thing they need. That's the idea with which actually first impelled him to go to the West. The tremendous love, why we are just saying it, that tremendous love he was feeling, the tremendous sympathy, empathy which was flowing, that made him to go to the West. In those days, he's the first preacher, the Hindu preacher, to go to the West. The idea, the taboo was there, that we shouldn't cross the ocean. What impelled him to break the norms, go, is a tremendous love. So that's the idea. So Sarva Bhuta, when you see the God in each and every being, it's bound to find expression as a tremendous love. And that's the thing which we find in the lives of the great men. They go into deep samadhi and come down with all this unbound love for the entire humanity. So that's we find expression in this word, Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma. And then Kurvannapi Nalipyate. Though you are acting, you are in no way get tainted by the actions. In the Gospel you will find in one place, Sri Ramakrishna one is asking, what's the difference between Daya and Maya? In Bengali, the Daya and Maya. And then he himself is giving the reply. Maya is just love for your own kith and kin. And Daya is love for all, unbound love. So the moment you see the God in each and every being, the divine in each and every being, then you are no more bound by Maya, me and mine, ahamta and mamata. No, you have broken that barrier. Now all the actions you continue, now it becomes a communion with the divine. So its attitude has changed, its awareness has changed. So the same work now has lost the capacity to bind you. So you can go on doing your actions, but it in no way will bind you, because the awareness behind the work has totally changed. So that's the idea which has been spoken of in this 7th sloka. Now let's go to now specifically how this man behaves, what is his feeling, that has been indicated in the 8th and in the 9th verses. What it is saying, we will take these verses together, the 8th and the 9th, because the ideas are continuing from the 8th to the 9th. Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavit na eva kinchit karomiti. I am doing nothing. Who thinks like that? Yukto, the one who is always in communion with the divine, yukta, or in unison. Manyeta tattvavit, the one who has known the tattva, the ultimate reality. It is not just a mere belief. Tattvavit is the knower. He is the knower. He has realized the absolute truth in his life. So he knows what? That I am doing nothing. Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavit. When he thinks that he is doing nothing, when he is seeing, hearing, all those things will be mentioned. Pashyan, Srinvan, Sprishan, Jigran, Ashnan, Gachan, Swapan, Shashan. So what are all those things? Pashyan, seeing, Srinvan, hearing. Then this Sprishan means touching. Jigran, smelling. Ashnan, and then this, what you say, this hearing, touching, smelling, eating. Ashnan is eating. Gachan, going. Swapan, sleeping. Swashan is breathing. And then it continues to the 9th sloka. Pralapan, speaking. Visrijan, all sorts of excretions. Means all the bodily activities. And then pralapan, visrijan, and grinhan, grasping, holding something. And then comes unmishan, nimishan api. That your eye, this constantly, the eyes, eyelids are opening and closing. The opening and the closing of the eyelids, the winking of the eyelids. Whatever is going on, he knows to the with his conviction, with drira nishchaya, that what? That it is not me who are doing that. Thus believing that the senses, why he knows that? The senses rest in the senses. Indriyan indriyartheshu vartanta iti dharaya. Thus the sense organs are interacting with the sense objects. It is not me. It is the working of the nature that's going on. It's not me. The nature is working through me. So such a person, so he may have not renounced any action, but still know it for certain that he is not acting. So he may be said to have renounced action, for he sees no action is performed by him. So that's the idea. Naiva kinchit karomiti yukta manneta tattvavit pashyan srinvan sprishan jigran ashnan gachan swapan shashan pralapan visrijan grinhan unmishan nimishan api indriyan indriyartheshu vartanta iti dharayan. So even performing all these actions, the knower of Brahman, the one who is established in Brahman, is free from the idea of agency. So whatever is going on, these bodily activities, he knows. Just to give an idea, in your computer, the hard disk by itself is inert. It looks like an inert object. If the entire civilization is lost, is destroyed, and again the man becomes primitive, and he just digs the soil and finds some hardware there, what will he think? It is a lifeless thing. He has no idea that if some bias voltage passes through it, and then it can become enlivened. An entire world of virtual reality can just pop out from it. He has no idea. So similarly, it is the Atman, the conscious principle, which when comes in association with the body-mind complex, the body-mind complex is inert. It's just like a dead matter. The mind which appears to be lively is dead, till that consciousness comes in association with it. The moment it comes in association with it, it becomes enlivened. Now, that conscious principle has nothing to do with the workings. The moment it gets enlivened, it starts working with all its intricacies. It starts working. So it is working just by being in association with that. But it itself is not working. Sri Ramakrishna used to give a very nice example, that in the olden days we would find that the lady of the house is very active. She is doing all the work. So most probably there is some wedding, some marriage ceremony is going on in a house, and the mother of the house is very busy. The lady of the house is very busy arranging the things. And the man, what he is doing, Sri Ramakrishna has his own funny way of giving example, that he is simply relaxing and most probably having a hubble bubble. And the lady with all the keys tied to her, to the sari, she's running hither and thither, and now and then with sweating she will come and she will just report. No, this work has been completed, that has to be done. He will report to the man, and the man just relaxing, having the hubble bubble, just gives a nod. Okay, everything is okay. So Sri Ramakrishna is saying the conscious principle is like that man, just gives a nod. And all the activities is Prakriti is doing. So that's whether the Prakriti is doing its own work, just by being in association with the Purusha. That's much she is doing. So that's why Prakriti is the one. Here also that idea. It is the guna guneshu vartanta. The nature is working. It cannot work without its association with the conscious principle. It needs its association, but the moment it gets associated, something inert becomes active, and all the activities its. Nothing belongs to the conscious principle. So the one who is established in the self is aware of this fact. So knowing that, he never identifies himself or herself with the activities which is going on in the body-mind complex. He is just the witness. He knows it is working by its own, as the working of the intricacies of the nature. So that's the idea. Indriyanin dhyartheshu vartanta iti dharayan. So next sloka also will be continuing with this idea. So first they say the tattva with one is established in the self. He is no way feeling that he is in association. He is identified with the activities. But what about us? The question comes, what about us who are yet to be established in that knowledge? So for them, the way is being spoken of in the 10th verse. What it is saying? That those who are not tattvavid, for them, brahmanya adhaya karmani. Brahmani adhaya karmani sangam tyaktva karotiya lipyate nasa papena padma patram ivam bhasa. I'll give an example. There is an example of padma patram ivam bhasa. A lotus leaf. A lotus leaf is always in water. But the water never can drench it. It never gets soaked by water. You take the leaf out of the water, all the water will form like droplets and just fall off from that leaf. So though it is in the water, it can never be drenched by the water. It can never be soaked by the water. So the one who is not a tattvavid, but always trying to be aware of his real self, brahmani adhaya, trying to remain established in the idea that I am the self. I am not this body-mind complex. I am the self. The body-mind complex is going through all its activities as per its position in life, as per the station in life. It is going through. But in no way I am affected by it. I am the self behind that. So that is the idea of brahmani adhaya, the one who is always trying to remain established in the self. Though he is not tattvavid, he has not realized, but he is trying. In Bhagavad Gita, we will find in the later chapter 2 words. What are this? That one is yoga rura, one who has ascended the yoga, one is established. And another is this, one is yoga rura, and another is this mumukshu, this one who is trying, he's constantly trying to get established in that state. So these two categories are there. So this, what's the difference? The difference is nothing. The one that has become spontaneous. For the one who is yoga rura, everything has become spontaneous. Spontaneously what he does, that I try to imitate in my life, that becomes my sadhana, that becomes my practice. The spontaneous life of Ramakrishna, when I try to imitate it, making that, thinking of that as the framework, that becomes spiritual practice for me. So what has been spoken of in the previous sloka is a spontaneity of a realized soul. That I am trying to inculcate in my life, practice in my life. As we find, when someone asks Swami, one of the brahmacharis, novice asked Swami Vivekananda, after he returned from the West, he formed the Belur Math, and the very new novices were joining. So they started asking Swamiji that why don't you prescribe certain way of life for us, from the morning till the evening, the do's and don'ts, so based on which we can regulate our life. Now Swamiji was not in favor of too many rules and regulations. So what he told is something very interesting. He told, just in Bengali the line is, Ja korar tar dher beshi korechi, tora shudhu dege ja. So this dege jawa is the word even in Bengali now we don't use. In the olden days in Bengali they use the word dege ja. What it means? When the children learn writing alphabets. So what the parent or the teacher, they will write the alphabet. And then we will ask the child to just scribble over that. We will hold the child's hand and help him to scribble over the alphabets which we have written. So this is called dege jawa, to go on scribbling over the alphabets or digits which the teacher or the parents have written. This is dege jawa. So what he's saying, Ja korar tar dher beshi korechi. What has to be done in this life, I have done more than that. Take there's these to be the writings on which you have to scribble. Don't go for too many do's and don'ts, and your life will be formed. So this is the idea of this, the one who is now aspiring. So after speaking, the one who is established, hear what they're saying? That try to be always established in the self. Brahmani adhaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti. That now, the more you are established in the self, the more you are not identifying yourself with the body-mind complex, the more you are detached. Nothing is tainting you. So that is the idea. Lipyate nasapapena. He never gets tarnished by any type of sin. Just like a lotus leaf. Though it is always in water, it is never getting drenched in water. So lipyate nasapapena padma patram ivam bhasa. So when you go beyond the idea that aham karta, that I am the doer, then what happens? You go where that we come out of the cycle of avidya kama karma. These are the languages which Shankaracharya is using in his commentary. Avidya kama karma. Because of ignorance, when I think myself as a limited being, then all the desire comes. All the desire resulting in action. This action again resulting in desire. And this cycle goes on life after life. From where it started? From the ego. The moment the ego falls off, you know I am the self. You don't see the reflection of the self in the body-mind complex and take that to be the real. The problem with us, we are taking the reflection to be the real. Just move your awareness, turn your awareness from the reflection to the real person. As Sri Ramakrishna very nicely used to say, that a night watchman, the night watchman in the pitch dark night with a torch in his hand was moving around the village and just focusing his torch to the various buildings and objects. And if some persons happen to be passing the road, he will focus his torch to him to see who he is, whether he's the villager or he's coming from outside. So now a person seeing the security, this watchman, focusing the torch on him, this man gets lighted, but he cannot see the watchman because the focus is on that person. So now this person wants to see who is holding the torch. So what he will say? Oh watchman, I cannot see you. Please turn the torch towards you. Then only you can see him. So consciousness is something which is always, why Sri Ramakrishna is saying this? To say that the watchman is the real, that the innermost being, whose is the torch, with which he is always focusing outside. With our senses, we are seeing this world. The consciousness is getting focused outside through our senses, through our mind, through our thoughts. So we have to just turn within. Ask the watchman to change the direction of the torch towards him so that we can see the watchman himself, the essence of our being. So when you get established in that, when you see the essence of your being, when the consciousness is turned inwards, then after that the work can continue. It can continue, but you know it for certain, it is because of him everything is getting lighted. The other things are not lighted as such. Why we think the moon as something which is illuminating the earth on the full moon night? Because we don't see the sun. It is actually the sun which is illuminating the moon, and the moon in turn is illuminating the earth. But as we don't see the sun, we think it is the moon which is illuminating the earth. So similarly, it is the body-mind complex which is being illuminated by the mind, and we think that the mind is conscious. But actually behind the mind, the conscious principle is there, which is illuminating the mind. The mind in turn is again illuminating the body-mind senses. So that's why all these activities are because of the conscious self. So once I am aware of that, then all the actions can go on. Though I am trying, I am not yet established in it, but with this awareness, when I try to regulate my life, that nothing of this life can tarnish me. I can remain unaffected. I can never avoid the happenings of life, but I can transcend them. That's the thing, that's the idea of Padma Patram Ivambhasa. I don't run away from life. I'm still immersed in life, in all its activities, but they cannot touch me. They cannot in any way tarnish me. So this is the idea which has been spoken of. But very interesting, here we will indicate one thing, that here Bhagavan is speaking of be established in the self, and then you don't get tarnished. But we have already studied that some places he's saying that Mai Sarvani Karmani, Sanyasta, Adhyatma Chetasa, offer everything to me. And again he's saying of that be established in the self. Is that two different practices? Two different paths? In Bhagavad Gita, actually it is not so. Bhagavad Gita is a very interesting, it is very, this entire script, this book, if you study from the beginning to the last, you will find a gradual sequence of practices. It's not, they are not separate. That even in the modern science, with the help of modern science, we can understand one fact, that it is not we who are the doer. Even now, in a short way, we can just explain. Even in modern science, what they say, that when I am doing something, I have a resolution in my mind that I am doing, I think it is I am the doer. Actually, I am not the doer. I am not the doer. There are many experiments, interesting experiments. That one experiment I can just immediately speak of you is that the split brain experiment. That a person who has a split brain, who has, because of some complications, their surgery had to be done to split the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere of his brain. So apparently he works as a normal person. There is no as such any complications visible in his life. But there are some experiments by which we can find out that he is a split brain. What? This is an interesting experiment. You make the person sit in such a way that his head is not moving, fixed. Now you show some display on the left side, so that only with the left eye he can see. The right eye cannot see. As his head is fixed and it's kept in such an angle, even if you turn your eyes, only the left eye can see. So now in the left, some display is there. What's the display? Get up and move. And it has been seen, that it has been found out that the man immediately gets up and starts moving. And now the one who is doing the experiment says, why you got up? Why are you moving? And the man says, he will think a little and says, oh, I'm feeling a bit thirsty. There is water in the fridge. In the front, there was a fridge. I want to have some water. Now, the experiments have been done by a famous university, and most probably Stanford. And then this man has written a book in psychology. The name of the title of the book is very interesting. That why everyone else is a hypocrite. I am the most genuine person in the world. Everyone else is a hypocrite. Why? This man who says, I want to drink water, that's why I got up. He really believes that he got up because he wants to drink water. But this man who is conducting the experiment, he clearly sees. He has actually seen the display and has got up. What has happened? Now, as there is a split in his left and right hemisphere, now very interesting. Our brain is constructed in such a way that whatever we perceive through the left eye is registered in the right brain. There is a crisscross. Whatever you are doing with your left hand is registered in the right brain. Whatever you are doing with your right hand is registered in the left brain. Now, the function of these two brains are a bit distinct. The left brain is a language brain. It interprets the thing. It's a language brain. And the left brain. And the right brain is autobiographical. It actually exactly registers what's happening. And sometimes acts just as has been registered. So in short, we are saying it. Now, what happened when he saw, there is a split brain, when he saw the display get up and move, it was registered in the right brain. But as there is a split, it was never transmitted to the left brain. He saw that display and got up and started walking. But as it was not transmitted to the left brain, now everyone wants to show that he is not a mad person. He is not something behaving in a queer fashion. In the psychology, they say he is a person who is efficient, who is capable, who is... So immediately this language will create a language, immediately. Just to show that there is a reason for getting up. display has not been transmitted in the left brain. The left brain immediately creates that language, it creates that language. It is the left brain is the language brain, it is the propaganda machine. It permits the propaganda. Oh, I am feeling thirsty, that's why I got up. And it will make you believe. Very interesting thing, it's not only that you understand that I have made up a story. Even you don't understand. You feel, yeah, that's the real reason. And you want to make others also believe that. So your language brains makes you believe and also tries to make others believe. And that's why you will find all the fight in the world is because of opinion. It is not because of right and wrong. Even if you think some person is on the wrong side, is doing something so just see, the recent I will say, the match is going on between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. So 1 minute. So because of some helmet problem, you know that one of the players of Sri Lanka, he had to have, after coming, he had to go for changing the helmet. The strap was broken. He couldn't realize when he was coming, and it's something you have to change without which you cannot play. And now there is a rule that after one player is out, the next batsman has to come within 2 minutes. If the time span is more than that if the fielding team appeals, you can be declared out. And now there was a genuine reason why actually he never delayed, abruptly he didn't just delayed. There was a reason, the strap has broken, so he had to go for changing the helmet. And now this Bangladesh captain, he just told that 2 minutes has passed, so he declared that he just claimed that he should be declared as out, and he was declared out. And now you will find there's these two teams have been asked. So the Sri Lanka is saying that it was not correct. It was actually had a genuine reason. They should have the sportsman attitude. And the other team is saying, no, we were correct. It's all within the rules. And now we also may give our opinion. And we may think that though he is saying within the rules, he is actually missing the point. He doesn't have the sportsman spirit. But if you go and say, no, it's all okay. In the game, you should be following the norms we are doing. So what is happening here, you will find everywhere, all the way. It's not that we think he's making up a story to make a judgment, but it's not the fact. He thinks he's genuine. All the fanaticism is because of that. A fanatic never thinks he's doing something wrong. He thinks he's right. All this terrorist act, they think they're right. They never think they're wrong. This Palestine, Gaza, both the side thinks they're right. It's never the fight between the right and the wrong. It's only the fight of opinion. And why it is happening? The propaganda brain. It is constantly making you trying to make others believe true as well as yourself. Who is the doer? Not you. Who is the doer then? In the modern science, they say, very interesting, our brain is not one mind. There are innumerable mental modules. Each have fixed stimuli response conditioning. How these mental modules have grown? Now, in the process of evolution, when I see something favorable for me, I get drawn towards it. Whenever I find something is not favorable towards me, I run away from it. All these stimuli response conditioning are fixed, and they create mental modules. Innumerable such modules are there in our mind. At a time, only one gets activated. Which one gets activated? Not what I decide. No, I don't decide. The external circumstances that decides what will get activated. To give an example, you yourself will find when you are in an office, you are a different person. You're at home, you are a different person. You are with your friends, you are a different person. What happens? As per the environment, a particular module gets activated. And you are bound to behave with that response in that module. You're bound to behave. But at the same time, you believe I am taking the decision. This is how the mind is playing fool with us. So what is happening? It is the mental modules with their fixed stimuli response conditionings. They are getting activated as per the environment. Guna, guneshu vartanta. And that's how we are acting. But somehow the mind is constantly fooling us. It is you who are deciding. It has itself decided. But somehow it makes you feel it is you who have decided. I am working just as per your decision. It's a very wonderful way of fooling us. The nature is constantly fooling us that way. But it actually, we will find that Prakriti is working as per its own nature. It's not me. I am just separate from it. So this is the idea which we find, even if you study the Bhagavad Gita constantly, this guna, guneshu, this word itself is wonderful. Guna, guneshu vartanta. This constantly the gunas are interacting with the gunas. Indriya, indriyartheshu. The sense objects are interacting with the senses. And it's taking its decision. The same idea which is being spoken of in the modern psychology. Indriya, indriyartheshu. Guna, guneshu. The same idea. It's the interaction there. I am the self separate from that. But again, at some places he's saying, "Mai," it is me. How to relate these two ideas? With a hint to this will help. These are the clues which will help to understand the entire Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes Bhagavad Gita, though we find slok by slok, it's very interesting. But overall, to get an idea, sometimes it's very confusing. What's the idea? So if you have the idea that the mind which is working with a mental module, at last you end up with the idea, I am just like a robot. I am just a robot. And there, somehow, the idea that I am a spiritual being doesn't come. It helps to understand that the body-mind is working by itself. But overall, in Bhagavad Gita they say that I am the Purushottama. It is that I am not only the conscious principle, even the thing which you see as unconscious, that also is me. I have become the lower Prakriti as well as the higher Prakriti. This will come in the later chapter. That I am the conscious principle. Again, I am the things which appears as Jada, inert. It is me who is appearing in one way as conscious principle and who is appearing as inert. The thing which you think a consciousness is actually is a part of me. The thing which you think is inert, that is also a part of me. Overall, I am the one who is playing. Just think in the computer. Some computer game, a small child, a small girl is playing the computer game. So what's the thing? That he or she is the one who is operating the entire show there. The bias voltage which has activated the computer, as well as all the languages which all the software which has been uploaded in your computer, everything is there. He or she is manipulating both the thing, isn't it? The one who is operating, someone has to be as an operator behind both the consciousness as well as the thing inert. Someone, even a potter, and is making the pot. That something inert is there and his own conscious principle is there. These two are interacting to make the pot possible. So whenever there is a building, there's a blueprint. Then there's some intelligence, a blueprint is there, and also the materials are there. So both the things, behind that someone has to be as a coordinator. So here's in Bhagavad Gita, the idea of Purushottama comes in the 15th chapter. Purusha Uttama. The conscious principle within me is the Purusha. All the things which you see in the world is a lower Prakriti. Behind that is the Uttama Purusha. There is the one who is the Paramatma, the Supreme, who is ruling both. Everything has evolved from him. He is the one who is the operator. So when you have that idea, then you know that the puppet show is not going by itself. There is someone who is pulling the strings. So first, to cleanse yourself, get established in the self. And do know for that certain, the self's interaction with the body-mind complex is not going on by itself. There is someone who is behind there as the operator, as the one who is running the entire show. So then once you cleanse yourself, now the devotion comes into picture. Relate to the one who is operating the show. So that's why Mai Sarvani Karmani. That after cleansing yourself by thinking yourself the self, then again offer everything to me. So this is the idea even in this Aurobindo's Gita is something very, very authentic we find. There he gives this interpretation that then you can link all the ideas in the Bhagavad Gita. Even in the Bible there is a very nice sentence. Worship the self by the self. That worship the spirit by the spirit. What's the idea? That when we are worshipping, what's the idea? You'll find our worship is limited to this life. Oh, I want a good job, I want good salary, I want good position. Everything as if I am this body-mind complex. And I am worshipping to a being who is higher than me, but he is also a physical being. Most of us have that in the very basic form of religion. That I am also a person, he is also a person. Maybe he is more powerful than me, but he is also a person. But then when I start relating to the idea that I am the self, or God is the eternal being, then also at the beginning the idea is God is the eternal being, but he has to help me out with this life. Our spirituality ends with this life. But when you say, I worship the Spirit by the Spirit, what's the idea? That this life is a passing phase. I am eternal. The Lord is also eternal. Our communion with each other is eternal. So this idea, that takes you to the real spirituality. Then what happens? Then you can transcend the sufferings of life. The life goes on as it is. I don't run away from it. But I know always that it is just a passing phase. It is not the entire of my existence. It will pass off. Nothing can kill me. Nothing can destroy me. Nothing can in any way annihilate me. I am always there. All these things which clings to me is just a passing phase. So nothing can really affect me. I am always in communion with the divine. So after realizing that you are the self, that way you cleanse yourself by not getting tarnished by the work. And then you come with a real communion. The Spirit is now communing with the Spirit, the eternal Spirit. And there comes the culmination of your spiritual practice. So that's the thing which Bhagavad Gita you will find. Then you can link up both the ideas, the jnana as well as the bhakti. Otherwise, Bhagavad Gita becomes a bundle of confusing ideas. Some will say, no, it speaks of only devotion. Some will say it speaks only of knowledge. No, it's actually through knowledge gradually going to that devotion. So that's the idea we will come as we proceed to the succeeding slokas. We will take up the succeeding slokas again in the next class. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.